Well, hello YouTube family. It is me, Miss Dana Ashley. I am so excited to be here with you again. And tonight is Friday, October 1st. I want to share with you a document that I came across actually a few months ago, but I've been hanging on to it because I think that it is an incredibly insightful document to help reveal some tactics that all of us should be aware of. It is a piece of history. It is from 1956 that you did not learn about in school, and too bad because we may be in a different world today if you had. So anyway, let's just bust this thing out. It is called the Biderman's Chart of Coercion. Okay, Dr. Albert Biderman was an expert on M1ND C0NTROL tactic. He was a sociologist who studied the most effective brainwashing techniques on American prisoners of WAR. In 1956, he published this Biderman's report, of course, methods for eliciting compliance. Compliance, yes. And I want us to go over this chart because not only is it extremely fascinating, it has nothing to do with what is going on today, of course, but I'm hoping that sharing it with you can help you to realize and recognize these techniques and potentially prevent your own brain from being washed without your knowledge or consent. And as a side note, for some of you who are unfortunately familiar with tactics within domestic violence in the home and relationships, or who have a really controlling narcissist in your life, you may find and recognize some of these techniques yourself because they're not only used by governments with a G, but they are used by any abuser who wants to control their victim. So if you've ever known someone who's like trapped in domestic violence and you're like, but all you have to do is go here and get out, and you find that they just stay in it and they don't want to leave and they wind up defending their captors, it's because they're dealing with the washing of the brain, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so Dr. Biderman presented this report at the New York Academy of Medicine in 1956, and one of the many books, as a side note, that he wrote was called The Manipulation of Human Behavior in 1961. It's out of print now, but check this out. This book, pull it up on Amazon here. This is the book here. Look at the price on this puppy, $579. Wow. Perhaps they are not eager for everyone to be able to afford to get this kind of info at their fingertips. But let's pop back into that Biderman's chart of coercion so you can take a look at these 8 tactics and become familiar with how they are being used to break the will of individuals so that it won't happen to you. Biderman report of coercion. Number 1, that is highly effective at coercing people into doing what you want is, oh, look at that. Number 1. Isolation. Isolation. It says that the purpose of isolation is that it deprives the victim of all social support and their ability to resist. Interesting. Now you can see that there are different variants of isolation here. You can have complete solitary confinement, you can have partial isolation, or you can have group isolation. It all qualifies as being isolation that is utilized for the purpose to break down people's will. Wow. It also says that it causes people to have an intense concern with the self. What am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? I, me, and which is what they want, which is sort of interesting. It also obviously makes the victim dependent on their captor. We haven't seen any examples of human beings being dependent on captors that are enforcing isolation, have we? Oh no, don't be silly, Dana. Also, I wanted to point out that, this subconscious reminder that we're dependent on our captor for everything obviously adds to a feeling of vulnerability and this lack of support, the social support we're talking about. Obviously, not all of us can realize that these are not great things, but just who knew, I didn't, that this is an actual method to coerce people into your way of thinking. Now, psychologists have certainly studied the impacts of isolation as a form of punishment on prisoners. Lockdown. Wow. All this terminology. Interesting. Many of whom have come forward to say that it's not only counterproductive for rehabilitation, but it has been already called out as being a form of psychological torture, and isolation, even over short periods of time, have already been proven to make the people incapable of interacting with other humans in a healthy way without anxiety.
Isolation breeds hostility. It's like you put a dog on a chain, you don't let him around other animals, eventually he's going to bite somebody.
And the United Nations considers anything more than 15 days of solitary to be torture.
Isolation as a form of eliciting compliance and controlling the will. Number 2, monopolization of perception. Says here that the goal is to fix the attention upon the immediate predicament. Again, they want introspection, thinking of the self rather than thinking of others. So they have to remove the stimuli that is competing with the messages of the captor. Isn't that interesting? Haven't seen any of that, have we? Which is why I'm spelling. That way, your captor is giving you the view that they want you to have, and they want to be the only version of reality that you get. It says here in this chart that they will eliminate information not in compliance with the demands, or eliminate, there's a couple versions of this chart, I'll pull both of them up, eliminate stimuli competing with those controlled by the captor, frustrates all actions not consistent with compliance. Makes a lot of sense. Monopolization of perception. So if you're in a prison, obviously that's a little easier to do, right? But with people having access to all these screens all over the world, how on earth could we monopolize people's perception? Maybe kind of like when we removed all the sports teams from playing and just cranked out CV News 24/7. Everyone's watching red ticker tapes scroll about the cases and DEATH. Even the shows you did see were weird because people were sitting 6 feet apart, or everyone had face diapers on as a reminder. You can't even call the electric company without being reminded this unprecedented time, right? Total monopolization of perception everywhere. And besides the mainstream content, which we all probably got tired of and turned off a while ago, even social media. Surely people in social media have different opinions, right? Oh, well, yeah, that's right. There were those influencers who admitted they were being offered money to take pictures, selfie pictures with their MASKS on, or showing themselves bowing at the altar of Jabbo. Come to think of it, this is all sounding very familiar. I'm having a little deja vu here. Oh, that moment in, when was it? Seems so long ago. October 2019. That simulation that perfectly predicted an outbreak that would happen in Asia that would shut down nations and economies. You guys remember this. Oh, yes. That was the one where they waxed poetic about how they would flood the zone with their version of what was happening.
But I also think we're at a moment where the social media platforms have to step forward and recognize the moment to assert that they're a technology platform and not a broadcaster is over. They, in fact, have to be a participant in broadcasting accurate information, counterweight, if not flood the zone of accurate information, because to try to put the genie back in the bottle of the misinformation and disinformation is nigh impossible.
So flood good information. Okay, others, yeah, Jane.
They even discussed the importance of going beyond what was on the news and social media and getting their flood the zone messages right into the ear of their CEO or even their own faith-based organization.
Sorry.
No, I think a complementary tactic too is to tap faith-based organizations and civil society and other institutions to recruit them also to basically, almost at a grassroots level, continue to basically have the integrity of the information.
Well, that is pretty thorough monopolization of perception, isn't it? But surely the Gates Foundation didn't realize that this was a form of mind control. It's just a coinky dink. All right, what do we have here? Number 3, humiliation and degradation. It says here that this tactic makes resistance more costly than compliance. So it is easier to comply than to resist. Oh, how did that picture get in there? Let's get back to the chart. Let's see here. Humiliation and degradation is apparently very important for being able to control the MIND. Can you think of a humiliating thing that you've had to do over the last 2 years in which complying was easier than resisting? What do you mean? Wearing a face diaper is humiliating. You have to do it for others' safety. Of course. Don't be so selfish. Oxygen, smoxygen.
Put your mask on. No, you gotta wear it on, no, honey.
No, you gotta keep it on.
Put your mask on.
There you go. Keep it right there.
Yay, Mason! Yay!
Keep it on, Mason. Look, we're gonna keep it right here. Look.
I would like to point out that there have been humiliation rituals that have gone on for quite a number of centuries. And in fact, let's bring this one up right here. This particular picture was meant to be Anne Bridlestone being ridden through the streets of Newcastle by an officer of the city. Ralph Gardner, 1655 illustration. Apparently, the public exhibition of silenced and gagged women continued in Europe for millennia, and medieval England practices of scolding insubordinate women were recorded in court records from the 13th century.
Why do you let him do this?
Then you have what I found out later were slave masks. There is some historical evidence to suggest that slave masks were sometimes used to subdue resistance when people were captured and transported. And if you haven't seen my video on the privilege left out from history on exactly who has been enslaved over the history of the world, you should check it out because it's really great. But I digress. Anyway, these slave masks were employed for more often as a punishment for insubordination or preventing escape attempts on colonial plantations, apparently. But anyone who hasn't given much thought to humiliation as a practice, you may not realize there are entire sexual perversions that are built upon it. People who have a sickness that makes them want to feel humiliated, and they never wear masks. I mean, like, never. Well, never mind. Let's get back to the Biderman report, shall we? Okay. On the topic of humiliation, another form of that somewhat applies to the next tactic to enforce mind control is mentioned in Biderman's report, and it's called enforcing trivial demands. So the enforcement of trivial demands, actually the last one here, develops habits of compliance. So these demands can be made, even in illogical demands can be made or contradictory, and still work powerfully to reinforce to the victim just who is in control here. So for those of you who have been thinking critically about this situation and asking questions like, how is it that the Lyris is totally able to escape when I'm sitting within this perimeter, but as I walk over here, it is not? You are trying to bring logic into a situation that does not require logic. We are talking about the enforcing of trivial demands, which is in and of itself a form of controlling the mind. So that could help you to make a lot of sense of all of these hoops that they are seeing you jump through. It's like shooting at someone's feet and making them dance. Yes, that is a random stranger with a lint roller. And yes, people are stepping up to perform their trivial demand. No questions asked. It is a psychological tactic. So let's just see it for what it is. Okay, what else do we have here? Induced. Okay, the next one would be, let's go here, under the form of exhaustion. The purpose of exhaustion, it says, is to weaken mental and physical ability to resist. Straight and simple. So let's see. Could making people sit all day inside do something like that? Or perhaps not allowing them to go to the gym, or not allowing them to take a walk too far from their homes. Oh, I don't know. Surely there aren't any people who are physically and mentally exhausted of tension and stress and anxiety over the last year and a half, are they? You guys aren't feeling refreshed? Come on. So yes, this too is a form of mind control. As you can see, there are plenty of articles in the media that talk about exactly this feeling of exhaustion that many people are having. And now you know it's an actual part of the plan. What else do we have here that is a form of mind? CONTROL. Okay, after exhaustion comes threats. Straight up threats. So, the purpose of threats is to create anxiety and despair. What kind of threats, you ask? Well, it says here the kind of threats that work well to wash people's brains are threats of DEATH. Imagine that.
The death toll tonight is more than 82,000.
82,000.
Bullshit!
Well, thankfully, none of us have been dealing with that, have we? I don't know. That seems pretty over the top. I mean, has anyone been threatening you with other people DYING? I mean, just because there's a nonstop ticker across your screen 24/7 for 20 months doesn't mean you're experiencing threats of DEATH, does it? Well, it says here that the American POWs that were being threatened, they were threatened to not be able to go back home. They were threatened to be abandoned. It says here that threats against the family are a big deal. We've certainly seen a lot of that. Vague threats, a lot of back and forth, and a lot of just confusion under these vague threats is something we've all been dealing with. And last thing it says here is mysterious changes of treatment. So one day it's one way, and the next day it's another way. And that actually kind of ties into the next one on this, which is called occasional indulgences. So on the topic of occasional indulgences, it says that they have to do that sometimes to have positive motivation for compliance.
The Bay Area to Chicago and today in New York City, restaurant owners getting a lifeline as big cities and states loosen dining restrictions.
So if you never gave positive motivation for compliance, you would not get as much adherence to the psychological programming. What kind of indulgences can you guys think of? Loosening of rules, reversing of decisions, saying it's never going to be this way, but then it is, and then it goes back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, giving a reward for good behavior, perhaps. All kinds of coercion and rewards and indulgences that we are seeing now, aren't there?
When you get vaccinated, I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this, these delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this. I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination.
Make it stop. Okay, I'm out. Indulgences, all kinds of indulgences and positive motivation for compliance going on, isn't there? It says they also give rewards for partial compliance, making promises. How can they hit every single one of these in one psyop? This is absolutely amazing. And finally, we will move on to the last point for taking over the will of the people, and that is demonstrating omnipotence. So the reason why they want to demonstrate just how potent they are and just how grand and big they are is because they want to suggest that your resistance is futile. They want to show complete control over the victims. Jeez, Roscoe. He wants to show his omnipotence, right? You just want food. That's all. Give me 5 more minutes, dude. All right. So what I think of when I think of this one is, for example, you know, guys, I talked to you about how I was saying that TRUMP would be used to create animosity and persecution against Christians and those who are more on the right way of thinking. And what did we see but that in this last year and a half? Now, furthermore, what hope do any of us have for not being censored if the President of the United States is taken off of his social media? They're saying, you have no chance. We can delete whoever we want. The annihilation of our rights was totally accomplished through his presidency. And that was the goal. I know a lot of you don't want to believe that, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So the futility of resistance is a really important part of the mind control in all of this. I guess another aspect of this is the fact that the entire planet has been shut down at the same time. That certainly is big, right? But what we need to realize is they want us to believe in and fear their potency, their omnipotence, because they are not that. There is only one who is, and it is not them. It is your creator. They want you to fear and believe in their total omnipotence, and we have to say no to that. In fact, there are many things that we need to say no to, and I hope it's clear by now. I do not need to state the obvious. This is not about health. It's not even about communism with a C, if you know what I'm saying. Take a look at my last video if you want to understand better why I think that they're doing all of this, what the end game is. But beyond that, what you need to know that these manipulative controlling of the M1ND tactics, let's talk about some action steps against this. What do we do? Again, being aware of the agenda is the first step. Helps you see, hey, this is just a control tactic. I'm not going to consciously get swept up into this. But instead of isolating, first example, instead of doing what they want, instead of isolating, we come together. We come together with other like minds. We come together to help each other. We come together to cooperate, to rely on and form communities with each other, not just by an app, not just online, but in person. Grow food, come together, read the word, consider how you might be able to barter, how you need to, what each of you as neighbors can bring to the table to offer to each other instead of isolating. Just imagine if your internet and electricity went out right now. There was no way to get food. Would your neighbors be a help or a hindrance to you? Form local alliances or go somewhere where you can. Remember, they want us to rely on them. We need to rely on ourselves and each other in fellowship. Instead of allowing them to monopolize our perception, we turn off the boob tube. Right? We don't let that filth and that programming and that fear-based content into our eyes and ears, not just CV news, but even mindless entertainment, sports that keeps you learning statistics of what and for what purpose, channeling your God-given testosterone into what? We need men to be men. I'm really calling out on the men right now. I know you've been very hit hard from every angle and it's not right, but just turn it off. Make a concerted effort to find sources of content that are teaching truth, promoting fellowship, spiritual growth, preparing for tribulation, because that is what is coming. These celebrities that they're being lauded around in front of you as someone to follow, they are sheepdogs to cull the herd. That's it. They're given fame for the purposes of shifting everyone where they want them. So at this moment, as one form of alternative information, I wouldn't say spend a lot of time in there, but at least if you want to find out some information about what's really going on with the shoulder poke and whatnot, is being spread on Telegram. It's not perfect, but if you want some alternative news about that, there's a lot of it on here. Let me hop on here and show you guys real quick what it looks like. So here's Telegram. I use it on my computer rather than my phone because I don't advise being radiated 24/7 by your phones either. I'm going to do a video about how to get off the wireless stuff here very soon, guys. But so you can see I'm sharing different types of news that is coming in that you're not able to share anywhere else anymore. We have a lot of young people that are suffering greatly because of what is being forced on them right now, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I will provide a link in the description box how you can jump onto Telegram, because we have not only my channel, but then we also have a chat where different people get on and they respond and give their insights and uploads and shares as well. So there's that. Do not allow them to monopolize your perception. Instead of induced stability and exhaustion, move your body, get outside, get good rest, get your feet in the earth, in a lake or the creek or the ocean. Grounding your feet and your body helps you to reset your God-given frequency, 7.8 hertz. Sweat the toxins out. We do need to take proactive measures to get healthy right now for, I believe, a lot of things that are coming. I do have some of the things that I've been doing in the description box if you want to check out what I like. But stop doing the things that make you feel weak and poisoned and that slowly kill you. What kills us? The things they promote. Junk for food, for one. Sugar. Shop the perimeter instead of the aisles. What else kills you? Addictions. Addiction to social media. Dopamine hits. Do you realize that when you're doing the dopamine hits, it's literally filling your receptors to the point to where normal life isn't good anymore? A sunset that used to bring tears to you is like meh. Or any of the little joys in life that are truly fulfilling become blah whenever you are full of addictive habits. Addictions to porn. Men, stop. Porn is designed to make you beta and weak and depleted testosterone. Did you know that there are entire movements of young men who have, not even Christian, but who have figured this life hack out and who have stopped the porn, and their entire life changes? Their posture comes back, the confidence that they have, their attraction from the opposite sex starts again, the love for life comes back again because they stop this murderous, depleting practice. It is designed by the enemy to make you miserable. We really need our men to be spiritual leaders, and I feel for what the men are going through, but I want to encourage them to take back their power, call on your creator in the name of Jesus to help you if you have addictions to any of these things. We can't be tethered to these devices. They are radiating us to pieces. We need to walk outside and feel the sense of awe for life, for the sunset, for the miracles all around us. I got to have a garden this year, and just the act of seeing like a tomato, this beautiful tomato, and you cut it open and there are hundreds of seeds, each one of which can provide hundreds of more tomatoes. Like, that's God's abundance. That is God's love for us. That is how he takes care of his children. And if we can't get ourselves into that mindset of gratitude and just appreciation and love for our creator, then something else is going on, and we need to address it now before things really start to shut down, right? So when you see these threats, these demonstrations of omnipotence of the enemy, know that they are bluffing. They rely on your fear to feed their spiritual leaders, which are demons, by the way. And this thing is not going back to normal, my loves. It's not. This really is their hand. They really are playing it. We have a lot of challenges ahead, but we don't just lay down and roll over. We pray against wickedness in high places because we win in the end. All right? And just keep reminding yourself that Satan is a defeated foe. And whatever lying, fearful psyop they pull next, and they will, just laugh and say, nice try, Satan. We really have to get into that much confidence for what God has in store for us. We need to have confidence for his ability to move through us in our temple, which is why we can't put anything else in our temple that is not of God. So, hearing him to guide us in each step, preparing not for just physical hunger, but spiritual hunger, right? I feel like I'm rambling and preaching, and I don't want to do that, but I do want to say that I think that the times that we're about to move in, these times of trouble, the silver lining is that a lot of people are suddenly going to be open to hearing the truth. about this spiritual war that we're all in. People that were never interested in it before, because why? They had too many distractions of entertainment. Those are all going away, and they're going to be ready for you to share your testimony. And there's a great purpose in tribulation. So if we can just embrace it and just thank God that we will have a place in the spiritual war against the enemy. He needs you to be ready to do your job for the kingdom. It may be one person that you're supposed to testify to. It may be a whole family. It may be a whole community. But that's going to be hard to do if you're weak or addicted or entertained into submission. So I'll stop now. But just get ready, guys. Prepare your hearts, prepare your cupboards, lean in to the voice of your creator. And know I love you. And I hope to talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. That makes them want to feel humiliated, and they never wear masks. I mean, like, never wear. Where did it go?